Hey everybody, welcome to this webinar on local search and SEO. Just to kind of get started, we're going to wait maybe a few minutes to let some more people kind of filter through. But just in the meantime, I'm just curious, where's everybody from? You can type it in the chat. I just want to get an idea of where people are kind of calling in from. All right. Chile, Toronto, Banff, all right, more Toronto, Calgary, lots of people from Calgary, Whitby, Victoria, more people from BC, Victoria, Montreal, awesome. Like we've got quite a few people from different regions. I like to see that. Do we have people outside of Canada here, or is this mostly just Canada? Okay, Chile. So I'm going to get started in about another minute or so, just let some more people come in. Hi. I'm in Toronto myself. I'm currently downtown Toronto. Smiley face. All right, I'm going to kick it off now. Let's get into it. So again, this webinar is about local SEO for small business owners. I'm your presenter. My name is Stephen Boffa. I work at a marketing agency in Toronto called Tug. I'm an SEO director here, so I handle lots of accounts for SEO. Below my name there is just a couple links. So there's a link to our agency. There's a link to my LinkedIn profile as well as my email for my agency. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn. I'm very responsive with people who like to ask me questions. I like interacting with people, and I really like talking about SEO. So feel free to give me an ad afterwards, and hopefully we can have a conversation. Yeah, so let's get into it. So here's kind of the agenda for the webinar today. First, I'm going to do a bit of an introduction on SEO. I'm going to talk about Google My Business for local. I'm going to talk about review management, how to handle positive and negative reviews that you may receive for your business. And then I'm also going to do a quick QA session. So for the questions, I'm going to try to answer them mostly at the end and reserve a good chunk of time to kind of go through all the questions. So when we get to that section, feel free to ask and I'll answer as best as I can. Before we get into things, I'm just curious. I want to launch a poll here to see how familiar people are with SEO. So I'm just going to launch this poll real quick. So I'm starting to see a lot of people are a little bit familiar. It looks like one person's advanced. Most people, by the looks of it, are intermediate. We have a few people who are not familiar with it at all. Hopefully this will be informative for you guys. Still collecting a few responses, but yeah, it looks like the majority, 73%, are a little bit familiar with SEO. Okay, that's good to know. Cool. So let's get into it. What exactly is SEO? This is a question I get from a lot of people. It stands for search engine optimization. And really with SEO, it is to optimize your website's visibility and relevance within search engines. So you want to appear for various searches that are relevant to your website in particular. The desired outcome of SEO is really to rank on page 1 of the SERP. So I may be saying that word SERP a lot, and that's in reference to the search engine results page. So if you talk to any SEO and they're bragging about, oh, I was able to rank on page 1 of Google, that's kind of the goal there. And once you're on page 1, you really want to persuade people to actually click your website. So you may have a bunch of listings on page 1, but really the goal is for them to actually click your listing on page 1 and visit your website. So that's really the primary goal to SEO. Here is kind of an example of organic results versus paid results. So here I'm using the example of dog food. So I typed that into Google, and the first thing that you see within the real estate of page 1 are a bunch of advertisements. So these are people, companies paying to have their ads shown above everything else in the SERP. And over time, the ad space has actually really kind of taken over, the front page real estate. A few years ago, you may have only seen 1 or 2 advertisements, but now, Google obviously loves to make money. So they're showing more and more ads over time. And who knows what it's going to be like in a few years from now. Maybe it'll all be ads. But there is also an organic section that pops up on the first page. So as you can see here, these results are shown below the advertisements. In this example for dog food, PetSmart has the first 2 positions actually, so they're doing really well for this keyword right now. And then there's also a section for images that are related to that keyword. So you're not always going to see these image sections pop up, but from time to time you will. More often than not, and I really do think it's a great way actually to get traffic to your website is to properly optimize images on your website, because you can appear in this section here and you can actually drive traffic through your site through images. This is another example of an organic real estate on the first page of Google. So this is what we call the organic map pack. And if you have a local business, it's kind of your goal to get visibility here within this map pack. So in this example, again, for dog food, you can see 3 stores. Again, this is based off of really kind of these 3 factors here for proximity, relevance, and prominence. So these 3 stores just happen to be in close range when I did this particular search. So there's a lot of pet food stores around me. I live on Queen Street East in Toronto, around that area. So these are the stores that popped up. I'm going to get more into detail about these 3 ranking factors for your local search, proximity, relevance, and prominence further down within the presentation. Here's a few other examples of organic real estate on page 1. So in the top left corner, there's a people also ask section. There's a research section, and then there's a discover more place section. So I really feel like looking at these things is very important for your business. So let's just say, for example, you run a pet food store and you type in dog food into the search, as I did in this example. There's a little widget that Google has put within the search engines. People also ask. So these are just frequent questions that are kind of related to the keywords that users are searching for. If you click the drop down arrow on it, it will give you an answer, and it will also provide you a link to that website. This is actually very important to look at if you're thinking about building content for your website, because you can get a lot of ideas about what people are searching for around the web. So for example, if you're building out, an FAQ page on your website, but you're not exactly sure what kind of questions you should be answering, this is a really good place within Google to kind of get some information there. There's a website called, I think it's called askthepublic.com, where you can type in a keyword and it will show you all types of questions related to this section. It's really a cool website. You may also see a research section pop up. So this will happen if it's like a keyword for like a product where, research is involved. People, if they're buying dog food, they want to make sure that the food is healthy, the best types of dog food, maybe the cheapest types of dog food. That will be kind of put into this section here. And Google kind of determines what goes there based off of authority. So really they want to show, authoritative sites that have strong brands and are kind of trusted within that industry. This will kind of pop up there. And then the Discover section, this actually, I took this screenshot at the bottom of page 1. So it may just show images and other businesses that are kind of related to your search. That may not appear on page 1, but you can click that Discover section to kind of see more. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about 4 components of good SEO. So whenever I'm talking to a client, I like to try to cover these for what I call 4 pillars of SEO, and that's technical SEO, content, backlinks, and then of course local SEO, which I'll be mostly focusing on this presentation. There is a lot of stuff really within each of these categories, so I'm going to break it down just a little bit. So under technical, this is a very kind of critical step, ensuring that your website is crawled properly and things are tracking properly. There's a lot of kind of stuff that can go on the back end of your website. So for example, tracking is very important to set up. If you don't have tracking set up on your website, it's very important that you do so. So you can do this with Google Analytics. It's free to set up, and you can get tons and tons of information about people visiting your website once the tracking is set up properly. You can see which pages they're visiting. You can see which country they're visiting from. You can even see which city they're coming from. You can get various demographics about, how old they are, whether they're male or female. Lots of very useful information in this section. Another very important technical aspect is having an organized sitemap. So your sitemap is really just kind of a list of all the pages on your website organized into what I call buckets. So logical buckets based off of categories. So you can kind of think of it almost as if like a tree. So if you think of your home page as a tree, that would be the tree trunk. So the main foundation is your home page. And then you may have branches coming off that tree. And I like to think of the branches almost like your main navigational items and perhaps your menu on your website. This could be various categories, and then you may have pages underneath these specific items, and I like to think of those as kind of leaves on the branch. It's really important to kind of organize your sitemap in a logical and specific way, because Google does check your sitemaps and it kind of crawls your website accordingly based off of your sitemap. So it's very kind of critical to have that set up properly. And then there's the usage of tags on the back end of your website through code, like HTML code. So a couple examples of tags that are important to add, maybe language tags. So let's say, for example, your website caters to multiple audiences that speak, for example, French and English. Maybe you have content written in those specific languages. you can actually add tags to those pages to tell Google this is supposed to be a French page, or this is supposed to be an English page, or this is supposed to be a page for Canada only, or for the USA only. So these tags are pretty important on how kind of Google understands the audience that you want to serve. Another example of important tags that you can add to your pages there's what I like to call a no index tag. So let's just say you have a section on your website that you don't really want Google to crawl and show within the search engine. You can add a no index tag to it. So for example, like maybe a login screen, like let's say you have a members only section on your site, and you don't really want Google to see that, you can add a no index tag there to make sure it doesn't show up in the search results. It will still be on your website, but it just won't be displayed in Google. And then maybe the most important technical aspect of your website is to ensure that it is fast. So general rule of thumb is I like to have my pages load in under 3 seconds. If you can get your pages to load in under 3 seconds, that's fantastic. If it loads in 10 seconds, you may want to think about optimizing your page a little bit better. There's a whole bunch of free tools that you can test site speed on. There's a Google tool that if you just type into search Google page speed tool, you can find it and you can enter in a URL there and it will approximately tell you how quickly your page loads. So for example, one of the biggest issues that I see with slow websites is a website may have a page with really, really large images. That's one of the first things I look at, is to see those images, see how big they are in file size. And if the page is loading slowly, I want to try to reduce or compress those images so that they can render as fast as possible on the screen. The next section, or pillar 2, is for content. So you may have heard the expression, content is king, and I really believe this to be true. So the content on your website is very important, not only for search crawlers, but for actual people who are visiting your website. You want to have unique pages with specific keywords associated to those pages. You really want to have strong titles and descriptions for those unique pages. This is a very important part of your content, actually, is having these titles and descriptions, because they're often the first impression that people will see within Google for your website. So if you're searching for something, and you'll see in the SERP a whole list of results, right? You're going to want to click the result that is the most relevant to what you're looking for. So by optimizing your titles and descriptions, you can really, really improve your traffic and your click-through rates. In fact, if let's just say, for example, you're on page 1 for a keyword, on page 1 in position number 8. And it turns out Google is looking at all these results and they can see that people are actually clicking on your website more than the person who's in position 5. Based off your title and description, they'll actually reward you for that, and they may boost you within those rankings. So if you're in position 8 and you're getting more clicks than the person in position 5, you may end up swapping positions with them. Very important to get this right. And you want to have these titles and descriptions be unique for every single page on your website. A lot of people just duplicate their titles and descriptions because it is kind of a task to create unique titles and descriptions for everyone, but I highly recommend you take the time to do it because it will play a factor in your rankings. Another thing with content is you really want to have really rich pages. So it can be daunting to kind of look at a wall of 2,000 words of text with no images or videos. People may see that wall of text and get a little intimidated by it. Maybe they don't want to read all of it. But if you can break up your content with visuals, it can really help people stay on your page and improve the overall experience. So, you can do this through videos, you can do it through images, infographics. Another thing that I've been experimenting a lot with recently is I like to embed social media shares within my content. So if you're writing a blog post, for example, about a specific topic, you can go on Twitter and check a hashtag related to your topic and kind of see what people are talking about. And you can actually embed that within your content. And I find that by doing so, it actually keeps people on your page a lot longer. People are obsessed with what other people are saying on platforms like Twitter. So I feel like this is actually a very good tactic that not many people leverage actually. And then the final thing for content really is you want to have enticing offers. So, as business owners, you probably have a service or you have a product. You want to make sure that your offers are clearly, stated within your page. We like to call these call to actions or CTAs. So if you have a product page, but you don't have a call to action anywhere on, where to buy it, then you may want to reconsider doing that. You can experiment with your call to actions. You can use, buttons. You can use, you can have phone numbers. You can have, discounts shown. You can have free trials. Like there's lots of various things that you can do for offers, but make sure that you add them. The next pillar are backlinks. So backlinks are probably the most confusing part of SEO when I talk to people about them. They just don't understand what backlinks are. They can kind of come in a variety of ways. I've just listed 3 kind of examples on how you can build your backlink profile. But essentially, their backlinks are links from other websites pointing towards your website. You want to have these links on websites that are relevant to your website. That's very important. So for local, it's very important to have your business in local directories, and we call these directory citations. So, pages like, or websites like Yellow Pages, for example, or Yelp or Canada 411. These are all kind of like directory style sites that list businesses. So if you have a business, you want to have your business added to as many directories as possible. And then there's digital PR. So digital PR is kind of a thing done by agencies such as my agency that I work for. And it's really the practice of working with, journalists and bloggers and social influencers and, talking to them to kind of spread the word about your website and your product. They may do that through social media, or they may, write, a blog post on their website about your site. It can come in the form of press releases too. So let's say you have a brand new product launching. You may want to create a press release on this and have that shown. And then external links from authoritative websites. This is a very big thing. So for example, let's just say you own an ice cream store in Toronto. One of the best links you can get would be from a place like BlogTO. It's a very popular website. They get millions of visitors every month. So let's say BlogTO comes out with an article about, top 10 ice cream shops in Toronto. If you're able to get your website in that top 10, that's a great link from, a very popular and authoritative website. It will really help your rankings out and your traffic. The next section is local. So I'm going to spend the majority of the seminar kind of talking about local. And the number one thing for local really is setting up a Google My Business profile, also known as GMB. So when I say GMB, it's in reference to Google My Business. And through Google My Business, you can, manage and see all the reviews that come in. Because reviews play a very important role in your local ranking factor. And then another kind of important piece to local SEO is having your name, address, and phone number shown clearly on your website. And we call that the NAP for short. So this is also a very kind of underrated element to any website really, whether it's local or global, is to have a detailed about section. It may seem basic, but really you'd be surprised how many people don't have an about us page on their website. This should be one of the first pages that you create about your website. A good example of an about us page would, have details about your business, how it was started, your mission statement, maybe you have some key employees that you want to feature. This is a very, very positive signal for Google because it helps them determine what your website's about and what you do. Google actually looks specifically for about us pages when they're crawling a website. Same can be said for a contact page. Very important that you have these pages set up. Don't overlook setting these up. If you don't have one, I suggest making one right away. This image here is actually a screenshot from Intuit's About Us section. It's really well done. So if you go to intuit.com, you can actually take a look at their About page, maybe for some inspiration on what a really high quality About Us page looks like. They've got information about their mission statement, their operating values, they've got contact information, all types of cool stuff. It's much bigger than this screenshot shows, but I could only fit so much onto this page here. So a little bit more information about NAP is your name, address, and phone number. It's really, the main takeaway for this is you want to have it consistently shown on your website, on your Google My Business profile, and any local directories where your website is listed. So whether it's Yellow Pages, again, Yelp 411, you want to have this match up perfectly. Otherwise, it can cause confusion for the search engines or kind of people looking for information about your business. So you can place your NAP, on a few areas on your website. A lot of people put it in their footer of their website or, on the About page. But just make sure it's clear and shown. Very positive signal for local. So now I'm going to get into a little bit more detail about GMB. So, people ask me, what's the most important thing I can do to improve my local presence for my business? And really, at the end of the day, it's set up your GMB profile. If you had just budget to do one thing for your business, I would recommend that it would be setting up GMB. It can generate more online activity. It helps improve those click-through rates from the SERP. Businesses that are verified are considered to be much more reputable than those that aren't. 79% of users report that having additional business information on the SERP will allow them to find a business that's better matched what they're looking for. So I'll go into a little bit more detail about that in a little bit in the following slides. Here's just kind of a statistic from Google Consumer Insights, which states that 72% of consumers who searched for local information on a smartphone visit a store within 5 kilometers. So as you can see, that's a very high percentage. So it's really important to get your business showing up in, these local searches. So Google My Business can help with a ton of things. Here's a few things that can really help improve for your business. So again, appearing in the local map pack, it can provide directions to your business location, a phone number in which customers can contact you. It will show your business hours, and it will also show reviews about your business through Google. So this is an example of a GMB listing actually for a client that I've done a bit of work on. The image on the left is only visible to owners of the GMB listing. So if you're logged in through your Google address and you do a search for your company, this little dashboard will only be specific to you, so other searchers won't be able to see it, but can give you a little bit of insights on how your business is doing. And then on the left side is a screenshot I took from my cell phone. So I did a search for Askari King West, and it's got a lot of information about the restaurant here, and this is your GMB listing. So as you can see, there's tons of links, information. It shows that the restaurant is closed, which I think I was doing this search at maybe midnight, and they close at 11 p.m. So when I did the search, it appeared closed. But I'll go into a few more of these details here about your GMB listing in the future slides. So if you don't have a GMB profile already, you should go and set it up right away. It's very critical. It's really easy to do actually as well. So all you need to do is go to google.com/business. There may be like a button you have to press to sign in, but it's very straightforward. The first step in adding your business is just adding the name of your business. There's about 5 or 6 steps to go about the process of doing so. But yeah, it's very, very straightforward. Google will walk you through it, and they'll give you all the information you need. This is one of the steps during the verification process, and the reason why I included this slide is because I get a lot of questions about this actually. So a lot of businesses aren't customer facing, and they may not want customers coming, let's just say they operate their business out of their house. They may not want customers visiting their house, looking for a product. So you can actually hide your address in GMB. So it will show like, your website, and you get all the privileges of having, reviews and information and pictures about your company, but it won't actually show the address. So you can decide whether or not you want to show that. So once you kind of go through all the steps of setting up your GMB listing, they want to verify its accuracy. And how they do this is kind of a funny way, but once you enter in your address for your business, they're going to mail you a postcard in the mail, and that postcard is going to have like a 5 or 6 digit code on it. Once you receive it in the mail, you can log back into your GMB listing, enter that code to finish the verification process. They've been doing this method for years and years now. It's kind of funny to me that they haven't really switched up their methods, but I guess they feel like the postcard works, so they just kind of stuck with that. So this is an actual screenshot of a GMB dashboard. So once you're logged in, your business is verified, there's tons of information here that you can access through your GMB dashboard. I'm not going to go through all the sections because that would take a really long time, but I do want to feature some of like the key sections. So as you can see on the left, there is a bunch of items within the menu. There's tons of information here. I suggest really that you kind of go through all of them kind of one by one and kind of get a feel for what they do. But some of the really important sections are for info, insights, reviews, photos, and setting up users. So the info section is really the first screen you're going to want to visit. And within the info section, you set your business name, you can set your business description, you can set your store hours, you can set your industry. So in the example of Askari here, they're an Italian restaurant. So I set their industry category to restaurant, and that helps Google kind of determine what your business is. I believe you can set up multiple categories, so I think you can fine tune it even more down to Italian restaurant if you wanted to get really specific. And again, I mentioned you can set your hours too for your business here. If you're closed on a specific day, let's say for a holiday, you can note that down. So when someone's searching for your company, but if you're not open, it will show that your business is closed for that day. So again, you can set all the hours through the info tab. The insights tab is very interesting as well. So within the Insights tab, it's basically like analytics for your GMB profile. So in this tab, you can see all types of keywords that people are using to find your listing. You can see, what time of day people are, searching for your website. You can see what day of the week they're searching for it. You can see like actions that people take. So if they, search for your website, you can see how many people are actually clicking that call button or asking for directions button. There's a lot of really cool insights. You can look at it, I believe, at a month at a time. You can look at it for 3 months at a time. You can also look at it from a year as well. So if you're just setting this up, I would suggest taking a look at your insights periodically and see what kind of actions people are taking through your GMB listing. The next section that I want to talk a little bit about is reviews. So whenever someone leaves a review for your website through GMB, all the reviews are going to be shown in this section here. And this is where you would actually respond to those reviews as well. Also within this section, you can flag reviews. So if you think that someone's leaving you a fake review, you can flag that review within the review section and have Google take a look at it and determine whether or not it's real or not. And if it's a fake review, more than likely Google will actually get rid of it. And another section is for photos. So this is actually a very important section of the GMB listing. So within the photos section, owners can upload photos of their business, as well as customers can upload photos of your business as well. So for example, in a restaurant, people love taking photography of food. You go have a nice fancy meal, tons of people take photos of their meals and then they'll share it online. So any customer who takes a photo and tags your business will show up here in this section. You can also get insights on these photos to see how many people are looking at them, how many. There's lots of kind of cool features in this photo section. And this is a very underrated part of GMB, actually. About 60% of consumers say that more photos the better, and they can actually persuade photos can persuade a user from seriously looking into your products or service. So it's very, very useful for them. And then for users, this is really just a section for managing your GMB dashboard. So you can have multiple users access your dashboard and manage it for you. So if you're the business owner, you may not have time to kind of go through your dashboard and ensure everything's set up properly, but you can assign a user to do that. So whether it's a coworker, a friend, someone in your family who's helping you out, you can add their email address and they can access your GMB dashboard and they can, see all this stuff and handle things for you. So that's kind of GMB dashboard in a bit of a nutshell. Again, if you have one set up, great. If not, I recommend going to do that immediately. So once you've got your GMB dashboard set up, there's a few different ranking factors on how Google determines, rankings for local listings. So these are the three primary factors. That's relevance, proximity, and prominence. So I'll go through each of these a little bit more in depth. So for relevance, it's really all about user intent. Why users are conducting a search. Are they looking for an answer to a question, a solution to a problem? Are they looking to buy something? So really, your business will show up in the map pack if a user is doing a search that's really relevant to your website. So that's one of the ranking factors. The second one, very important one, is proximity. So if you have a physical location, chances are you're going to show up in the map pack if someone is searching for something related to your business and they're close by. If your website or your business is 500 kilometers away from someone doing a search, you're not going to show up in the map pack for it just because it's not close. Whereas if you're 5 kilometers away, you have a really good chance of showing up. So they'll take your, your location and they'll factor that in, and they'll use that as a ranking factor. The third ranking factor is prominence. So do people trust your brand? This really comes down to reviews, citations, and are people, talking about your website through various articles online? This really helps with credibility. How popular in Google's eyes is your business? It's really important to focus on reviews. You can get a lot of traffic and a lot of purchases to your business by having a really strong kind of review strategy, which I'll talk a little bit more within the next slides. So yeah, develop a review strategy. This is really critical and often overlooked, but 84% of consumers trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations. And this is absolutely true. If you're thinking about buying something, what people often tend to do is they will just go online, they'll look up reviews and base their decision based off of those reviews. I do it, my mother does it, my friends do it, most people do this. So having a really good review strategy in place is pretty critical for your local SEO. Here's just a couple quotes that I pulled up, which I found to be quite interesting. So on average, consumers read about 10 online reviews before feeling they're able to trust a local business. This number actually increases the younger your audience is. So for whatever reason, the younger generation of kids between the ages of 18 and 24 kind of expect to see more than 10 reviews. I would say it's about 4 times that amount. But older generation of folks, on average, roughly about 10 reviews. Review signals make up 15% of Google local map pack ranking factors, so that's a fairly significant chunk. And then the next quote kind of talks about how consumers really want to see reviews that are recent. So 40% of customers only take into the account reviews written within the last 2 weeks. So if you're getting lots of reviews, then that's fantastic. Very important. So this is kind of a bit of an example as to why these reviews are important. So this is an image of a local listing in the map pack, and the example here is Denver personal injury lawyer. And then to the right of it is a heat mapping graph. So this is like data where people are actually clicking on this page. So on the left-hand side, you can see there's 3 kind of listings that are the most clicked. And the first one is an advertisement actually, but it appears right at the top. So chances are people are just going to click what's at the top. So people are clicking that one a lot. The second one below it only has 1 review, but it's also at the top. So it's getting a lot of clicks. And then if you look at the 2 below it, they're not really getting a lot of attention or clicks from people. The third one there has no reviews. The fourth one only has 3 reviews. And then the one below it has 20 reviews. So as you can see, the more reviews, the more kind of likely that people are going to, consider your brand and click on your website. I wanted to mention, so a lot of people kind of ask, how do you get reviews? People may have heard about these tools called, they're essentially review gating tools. So there are these tools that essentially act as gatekeepers in the form of like a survey. So let's just say your business, you have an email list of, customers that have, used your product. What these tools will do is they'll kind of send out a survey to those people on your mailing list to kind of get an idea of whether or not they were satisfied. So if the data comes back from the survey, that they're leaving you 4 or 5 stars or they're happy with your product, what the tool then will prompt them to leave a review. If people come back with kind of negative feedback, and only rate you like 1 or 2 out of 5, then they will not be prompted to leave a review. So I've used these tools in the past, and you can accumulate a lot of reviews with them, but I do have to kind of warn you that using these tools come with a risk. So Google has actually specifically stated they don't like tools like this because they really feel like all reviews should be genuine and not gated. So use at your own discretion. I wouldn't really recommend using one, but they do exist. So I thought it was useful to kind of mention that. So a big part of reviews is dealing with negative reviews. So really, you need to think about negative reviews, and they're not all that bad actually. As a business owner, the reality is you're going to get negative reviews from time to time, but really the best way to manage these reviews is to respond to them. You want to assess first if they're fake or if they're real, and you basically always want to respond to negative reviews. It's actually really important that you do that. And in reality, people actually don't necessarily trust websites that have all perfect reviews anyways. So if you have a few negative reviews kind of sprinkled in with your reviews, it makes it seem a little bit more authentic. There was a study done actually by Northwestern University, and they kind of recommend that there's a sweet spot for your reviews, and that's between the 4 and 4.7 range. People generally tend to trust that score more so than a perfect, 5 out of 5. And again, you can flag these reviews if you believe that they're malicious. You can do that through GMB. 45% of customers say they're more likely to visit a business that responds to their negative reviews. So again, this really just emphasizes the point that you need to respond to your reviews, good or bad. You can actually learn a lot about your customers by responding to negative reviews. You can flip an unhappy customer to a happy one, by going that extra step and communicating with them and trying to kind of rectify the situation. So very critical that you do this. I kind of threw this in here as a little bit of a case study. I thought this was kind of interesting, but you may have heard about this guy, Aaron Schlossberg. He's a New York City lawyer. Anyways, he was filmed on camera in a Mexican restaurant, basically going on a racist rant. And the video was posted on social media, and the video went viral. And people on the internet, they're all detectives, right? So they figured out where this guy was from, and what they did was they bombarded his Google listing with negative reviews. So in situations like this, Google can they have protocol in place, and they determine that yeah, this fellow Aaron, he may not be the greatest guy, but the people leaving reviews for him, they're not actually his customers. They're just angry people on the internet that don't like what they saw within his video. So in situations like this, Google will actually remove these reviews. I checked out this guy's page the other day, and he's got about 200 reviews now. So they reduced it from 2,400 almost to about 200 or so. Still, he doesn't have great reviews, but despite that, Google did remove a bunch of them based around these circumstances. And then kind of the final tip for understanding how to use your GMB profile is through the community. The Google community is a really great one, actually. Here I've kind of listed out some very important links. If you have questions, if you want to help other people, you can contribute. Google set up Facebook pages, they have a Twitter account, they have various support forums where you can actually go into, and chances are if you have a question about something related to either your GMB or local search, chances are other people have asked those questions as well. So it's a really just a great resource to leverage online, and it's all the information's free, and you can ask questions, and people are more than helpful to respond to them. I frequent these forums sometimes, and I'll answer people whenever I can if I know the answer to their question. People are really just like kind of proud of their knowledge, and they want to answer people. So really, if you ask a question, it should get answered almost immediately within these forums and communities. So that's local SEO and GMB in a nutshell. So I'm going to open up the QA portion of this. And if people have questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. So I'm just going to open this up and kind of go through some of these questions. How can we use the Google Local Guides program in favor of our Google My Business? So that's a good question. I believe there is a website for this specifically where you can kind of research all the information. If Google Local Guides are actually leaving a review about your website, it actually holds a little bit more weight. So getting these kind of local guides to leave you reviews can be very beneficial. But there is a link for this in particular, which I can maybe share with you afterwards. I don't know it off the top of my head, but if you want to message me on LinkedIn, I can help you out with that. Okay, I have a problem with Google My Business. There are 14 reviews posted to my site that are for a completely different company, and I'm having a really hard time getting Google to review them. Any tips? Much appreciated. So again, it's often difficult to kind of get your reviews kind of removed. Sometimes Google really looks at specific criteria when kind of determining whether or not these are fake or real. In this situation, it looks to me like they should probably removed if it's for a completely different company. I'm wondering if maybe was there a previous owner to the company, or if things changed, or maybe you share the same address as another business and people are kind of going to that by accident. But I would just go into it, flag it, and then visit. And if you see that nothing's happening with those flagged reviews, I would visit the support forum and post your question there and try to get a top contributor to look into it and try to help you out there. Can't hear you well. I apologize for that. Hopefully the majority of you could hear me okay. If you're using a site on Squarespace, do you still implement tracking? So I'm not overly familiar with using Squarespace. I do generally use WordPress or HubSpot for my websites, but I do believe you can still implement tracking just fine through Google Analytics with it. I do believe Squarespace also has like an in-house tracking metric that you can kind of leverage through your Squarespace dashboard, but I would really trust Google Analytics a little bit more so than anything Squarespace will show you. Would you suggest paying for services like Yext? I'm not exactly sure what Yext is. If you want to reach out to me afterwards, I can look into it and give you my 2 cents on that. Would you please send this recorded webinar? So I believe that the webinar is recorded, and afterwards you can email to receive it. There's also going to be a white paper that's going to go along with the webinar. So yes, there will be a recording available. Are you able to recommend an agency to assist with SEO for small businesses? This is kind of a funny question, considering I work for an agency, but there's really a ton of agencies in Toronto or within Canada and the US that can handle this type of thing. I don't really want to recommend any particular, aside from Tug, of course. So what if you offer a service but no brick and mortar location? How to optimize for traffic. So again, you can specify within your GMB profile that you're not a brick and mortar location, and then you can still take advantage of all the features of GMB, through business information, through, managing your reviews, adding pictures, this and that. So I would just go through GMB and optimize everything as is, with the addition of kind of hiding your address there. Can you set up the GMB for clients? And if so, what do you need to complete it? So yes, you can do this. All you need is a Gmail address, and you just go in. If it doesn't exist, you can create it, and then you can give access to your client, access for them to be able to access the dashboard. So yes, you can do that. This question's from Elaine Parker. We have had GMB for 4 years and also have had Google Ads there. No traction, no clicks, nothing. It shows our office, has pictures, and we have weekly postings on the GMB page as well. That's a little unfortunate. Do you have lots of reviews? Because maybe if you don't have a good amount of reviews, that could factor into it. Really, it could be maybe a niche that's not super popular for GMB. I'm not sure what your niche is, but that's a tough one to say, really. Generally speaking, GMB will help, but I guess it really just depends on your niche as well at the end of the day. But it sounds like you're doing the right things, by adding pictures, posts, things like that. But maybe focus a little bit more on your reviews to see if you can get some traction there as well. Reviews all good. However, with just 10 clients and 8 do not want to post reviews. I have 10 positive reviews on alignable versus direct reviews on Google. I mean, getting reviews is a challenge, especially if you don't have a large client base. 10 reviews is still better than no reviews at the end of the day. Hopefully they're all positive. Yeah. So if you're interested in links for anything that I've kind of talked about here, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to assist with anything there. We bought our company and the previous owner doesn't have the verification code. What now? I would try to re-verify it. Try to verify the listing again, enter in your address and get that postcard mailed to you. Google should be able to send it. I've had this problem before where I didn't get the verification code and I had to request that they mail the postcard multiple times before I actually received it. But once you get it, you should be able to verify it. But you can re-request it. Do you have the website URL for the website loading time checking tool? So there is, I don't know the name or the exact URL off the top of my head for the Google specific one, But if you just type into search Google page speed testing tool, you should be able to get that tool. It should be the first result that comes up. Another really good testing tool that I like to use, that's not an official Google product, it's called GT Metrics. So it's gtmetrics.com. That's a really useful tool. How important is it to include 360 pictures, virtual tours in GMB? So that's a good question, actually. It really depends on your niche, but I really feel, niches like restaurants is great. If you're a realtor, it's a really useful thing to have. Um, it really depends on your niche at the end of the day, but including those 360 pictures can actually be very, very cool and important for users. How do you remove your address after your GMB profile is published, as we are home-based? So that would be in the info tab, I believe, for your GMB listing. You can go on there and click to edit your address, and you can specify whether or not you're a brick and mortar location. We're kind of running out of time here, and I see that there's still a ton of questions here. I'm not going to be able to get through um, all of them, but again, you can find me on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy really to kind of go through some of these with you guys. Um, I'd be really happy to do that. I love talking about SEO. Hopefully this presentation was useful for some of you guys. If really there's one takeaway that I want you guys to kind of, get from this presentation, is that GMB is really the most important thing for your local business. Like I said before, if you only have budget to do one thing, I would put it all into GMB and making sure you optimize it. Spend some time there, get some reviews, and kind of go from there. So I think I'm going to wrap it up now. Again, if you have any more questions, feel free to please link out to me. And yeah, let's connect. Take care, guys. Thank you for being a part of this.